Hi everybody. I know some of you are still on holiday, but we are back at work and school after a hectic weekend. I know the likes of Jan Mortimer are not interested in hearing about my or our problems here in South Africa, but I need to mention to you that once again our load shedding is increasing, and I need to mention it because it affects the channel. On Wednesday this week, for instance, our electricity will be off for most of our working day. And yes, I have a small generator, but if the electricity is off for 11 hours or more, not only is it not cost effective for me to run the generator all the time, but the towers here in the rural areas goes off and then we don't have signal anyway. So videos this week will be erratic, some late, some early, some days two, and on some days absolutely none. That is the nature of the beast, and I beg for your patience and understanding. The circumstances in my hometown and country is also the reason why I cannot compete in as far as time of reporting is concerned, and why I prefer to do opinion pieces or opinion videos and deep dives so that it is not bound to time or events. And I'm going to do the same with the coronation. By now, everyone who is or who was interested in the coronation has either watched it or has watched numerous videos about it, and therefore it is absolutely pointless for me to go through the entire event, and therefore I'm just going to talk a little about what stood out to me, what touched me, and how I felt about certain things. Of course, I watched as much as I could of the arrival of the guests, because it's not every day one sees so many royalty from so many countries, politicians and celebrities thrown together in one venue. Firstly, my heart swelled with pride when South Africa's pretty Yende performed Sacred Fire at the coronation. Oh my word, that voice, that song, that performance. For me, it was the best piece of music of the entire event. I do not know who created that yellow ensemble she wore either, but it was impressive. I'm practically sure Pretty is not watching this channel, but if someone knows someone who knows someone who knows her, please tell her I'm congratulating her on her performance. She looked and sounded fantastic. Okay, so I talked a little about the outfits some of the other royals wore, and we'll touch on it again a little later or maybe some other day. But what stood out for me of all the arrivals is that, as far as I could see, or as far as I saw, Prince Andrew was the only person who stopped and bowed his head to the tomb of the unknown warrior or soldier. I found that rather emotional and very respectful. Particularly on a day such as the coronation, I would have expected more people, particularly those in uniform, to have paid their respect, because ultimately, if it wasn't for the armed forces over the years, there likely would not have been a coronation this weekend. Now, I'm going to diarize it because I actually want to revisit the Prince Andrew debacle at some point, because I have a tiny tidbit of information which I have not seen or heard elsewhere, and which was recently confirmed to me. But that may be next week or whenever I get to it. Anyway, I saw on social media that a number of people complained about Andrew wearing the Order of the Garter regalia. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad he did. He is entitled to wear it, and like Harry, he is entitled to wear all the medals he served for. Obviously, because he is retired from all his active and honorary military appointments, he can't wear a military uniform, and quite rightly so. But his actions and behavior since that interview and since the settlement proves, to me at least, that Andrew has loyalty and integrity that few others actually have. Certainly not the likes of dear old Harry. Yes, indeed. Harry has been entered the Abbey with cousins Eugenie and Beatrice and their husbands, and directly on the heels of their father and his uncle Andrew. So firstly, it would have been rather impressive had he, such a military man as himself, followed his uncle's example and bowed his head to the tomb of the unknown warrior. But no, instead, he chatted to Jack and Edo like a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Then I see some people are pulling Jack and Edo apart for talking to Harry, calling them traitors, etc. Well, that is just crap. I have it on good authority that Beatrice never wanted to be part of the whole Markle debacle. She loved and adored her grandparents, and of Andrew's two daughters, the Queen and Prince Philip had a special place in their hearts for Beatrice because she was the softer, shyer one of the two girls. So no way has she ever, or would she ever, side with Harry. Instead, she is just keeping her distance and staying silent. Eugenie is more boisterous, outspoken, and rebellious. But I also have it on good authority that she does not completely approve of Harry and Meghan's conduct, and is in fact appalled by some of it. I also heard that after an attempt by Meghan to drive a wedge between Eugenie and Harry, Eugenie has also had a bit of a change of heart and is no longer a fan of Meghan. And then obviously, even more so, none of this has anything to do with Jack or Edo. And on top of that, they are in public. What are they supposed to do? If Harry addresses them, they keep up the pretenses, they put a smile on their faces, and they reply back. Anyway, Harry walked the Abbey like he was a model on a runway, looking left, then right, to see who smiled at him. He even greeted some people, but I don't know whether it was just my imagination, but I could swear a few people looked away deliberately. But of course, we had to learn that the suit, which I originally thought looked old and worn, was actually one by Dior. Well, it's a sad day in hell when you use your grandmother's death and your father's coronation to make money. And while we are on the subject of Harry, two things stood out to me. And please note, this is not fact. It is my intuition speaking. I rewatched certain parts of the coronation, and although Harry's face was mostly obscured by the feather on Anne's hat, there were angles which showed his face. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but to me, Harry looks like a very sick man. He looks like someone with serious mental issues, but not just of the emotional kind, but also of the physical kind. And if it was indeed possible to diagnose someone by just looking at him, which it is not, N-O-T, not, okay, then I would have said Harry needs a brain scan and other tests urgently. The way he looked at his brother and his family, the faces he pulled throughout the ceremony, his entire body language, even the way he holds his head when he talks to other people. Look, I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist, not by a long shot, but I have lived long and hard enough to recognize certain things, and I'm telling you guys, Harry needs medical intervention, whether for his addictions or to find out what is happening in his brain. It does not matter. It needs to be done. His actions, his facial expressions, and his body language are not normal for a nearly 40-year-old man. I heard by the grapevine that the king had actually said in so many words to someone that he is worried because his son is sick and unhappy. But we'll talk about that in a later video as well. Something which bothered me throughout the ceremony was the fact that literally everything was read off pieces of paper. The Archbishop even read the shortest of blessings off a piece of paper. The king read his oath off a piece of paper. And even William read his pledge off a piece of paper. Now look, I know it's a small thing, but I think my OCD is kicking in big time. And for me, that put a bit of a damper on the event. I felt that they could have taken the time to at least learn the basics off by heart. It just would have come across so much more authentic, in my humble opinion, of course. It was nonetheless a very emotional moment when William pledged allegiance to his father. There was a split second when they looked each other in the eye before William kissed his father on the cheek, and I think something broke inside of Charles at that moment. What? I don't know. But there was an expression, not of love so much, but of sincere gratitude in the king's eyes when he whispered, "Thank you, William." I'm not saying the king does not love his son, but my first reaction, my immediate instinct, was that the king was grateful to his son. And usually our gut, our first instinct, is correct. Then I cannot stress enough how impressed I was with Penny Mordaunt. Oh my word, not only did she look like a warrior princess with the swords, but just everything, from her clothing to the way she carried and presented herself, was absolutely impressive. That is indeed dedication and duty right there. Well done and 3 cheers. I hope she gets an award or some medal for what she meant to the coronation. Okay, now the following things that I'm going to address caused a bit of confusion and conflicting emotions, etc., etc. So in no particular order, just randomly as it comes to mind, let's talk about it. So there were indeed no tiaras. I personally think that was a little silly. We all know the royals, British and otherwise, have collections upon collections of tiaras, so it would not have cost an extra dime to have the ladies wear tiaras. It would have been marvelous to see all the royal ladies wearing their tiaras. But now, because the British royal women did not wear tiaras, the other royals didn't either. In a way, it was a bit unfair, I think, because most of the European royal men wore their glossy military uniforms. But I also understand that they did not want to flaunt their wealth while the economy in most of their countries are in the pits at the moment. But I sincerely cannot see the real difference. Why have those marvelous pieces sitting in vaults? This would have been the ideal event to showcase them. No matter how poor the populace is, we still know that those tiaras are there locked up and gathering dust. Having said that, Catherine looked like a Greek or Roman goddess in that Alexander McQueen headpiece, with the silver thread, rhinestones, and 3D embroidery. It looked like a tiara anyway. In all honesty, guys, although Catherine was just there following protocol and doing her duty, the display of William, Catherine, and their children carried the entire event and added the glamour we wanted and needed from the British royal family. No matter what they say or do, William and Catherine present that picture book fantasy of a royal family, a king and his queen, or for now, a prince and his princess. William is well spoken and Catherine the classical beauty and supporting wife. Just fierce enough for everyone to know she has her husband's back. The right combination of the fairy godmother and Xena, the warrior princess. Catherine, who herself looked perfect, also ensured that her children were appropriately dressed and shiny and neat. George, the king's page, who looked so proud of himself, Charlotte, who looked like a Disney princess, and Louis, who provided light relief and excitement. Okay, now let's go to Queen Camilla. Firstly, I don't know whether I went to the toilet or made coffee and missed it, but I did not see Camilla being anointed. Maybe she wasn't supposed to? Do any of you really know? I also did not see her take any oath of any kind, not to the king or to the people. All I saw was her being crowned. Can anyone please explain this to me? What was supposed to happen? I don't really know. Or did I perhaps just miss something? The other thing is that I also thought I missed something, but then I inquired and I was told that I was indeed 100% correct and that Camilla did not attend the luncheon with the political leaders prior to the coronation, and neither did she attend the evening reception. Inquiries to the palace came back with it was never publicized that she would attend. A second inquiry to the media liaison came back as the Queen was never on the list of attendees. Okay, now that's basically the same thing, just different words. My journalist online pal said they were told the Queen was resting ahead of the coronation. Okay, now please hear me out. I have nothing against Camilla. As I said in my previous video, I can easily separate the person and the job. Maybe because I'm not British, and maybe because I'm on the outside looking in. But seriously, if this is preemptive of what is going to happen in the future, then maybe it would have been more economical and better for morale had the crown gone straight to William and Catherine. And I'm not being nasty, just practical. I heard stories about Camilla's health before the coronation, actually months before, and honestly, I'm praying for that woman because one thing is for sure, Charles is a better man and more tolerable because of Camilla. I cannot, and quite frankly, do not wish to see him without her. Whether you like her or not, she stabilizes him. She keeps him in check. Oy vey. Let's hope and pray she has a few more years in her. I know that her children were very worried about her a few months ago. I do not exactly know why. All I know is that one of them had a discussion with their father about their mother. That is all I know and all I am likely to know until more comes out publicly. Okay, and then finally, Harry left directly from the Abbey to the airport. Now, on the one hand, I can understand that because it must or would have been painful to watch his brother, his wife, and children appear on the balcony and being so far removed from your core family. But it wasn't the family's fault. Harry and his wife left the job, left the family, and left his brother. But besides that, I found it very rude. He was not the only one not on the balcony, and he could have been a little more jovial, a little more relaxed, and spent some time with his cousins, could have had lunch with all of them, including his father. I know for a fact that he was indeed invited to lunch, and although he declined, he was again and again assured that seating arrangements and a place at the table would not be an issue even at the last minute. With his action of leaving without even greeting his father, he shut the door in the faces of his family in my eyes. Can you imagine being in the same place as your parent or parents and leaving without saying goodbye to them? It is disgusting, never mind rude. I think my father would have told me not to set foot in his house again until I learned some manners and respect. Yes, I saw the pathwalk hike of the witch-like creature of Montechet show. My questions are, so what happened to Archie's birthday party? What about staying with and giving a bit of support to your husband who dropped everything to fly back to be with you and the children? Well, we will indeed talk about that tomorrow. For now, let's all just say, long live the Queen of our hearts, Princess Anne, and her feather. Okay, guys, so that's it from me for now. Until we meet again on the next one. Bye.